and welcome everyone. Let's get started here. I want to start out by thanking you for joining today's webinar. The topic of today is End the Year Strong, Best Practices to Optimize Your Trade-in Process. My name is Joe DiGirolamo, and I will be your moderator for today. Before we start, I would like to cover some housekeeping items. As an attendee, you're in listen-only mode, so your microphone is muted. There will be a question and answer session following the live demo portion at the end of today's webinar. So please submit any questions you may have in the chat window, and we will answer as many as we can. You will only be able to see the questions that you yourself have submitted. If you happen to experience any audio or technical issues during the webinar, please refer to your registration confirmation email for dial-in information. We are here today to talk about best practices around taking in trades and getting them back out the door as quickly and as profitably as possible. If you attended our recent registration and title webinar or our auto news webinar earlier this week, you'll have seen and heard Joey Yates touch on some of what we're covering today. We are fortunate to have David King here to go into more detail on those topics and to also provide a demo of our industry-exclusive accelerated title solution. David, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Joe, thank you very much for that. And also for everybody on the line today, good morning, good afternoon for many of you. Thank you for taking the time to look at new ways and new ways to improve many of our old habits. My name is David King. As Joe had said, I am the National Sales Lead for our Accelerated Title product, and I've actually been attached to it since even before it was a product. So I've been very keyed into this evaluating the vehicle's payoff process, title receipt for quite a number of years now, and really look forward to having the opportunity to take a deep dive in here with each of you here this afternoon. So with that, let's go ahead and get kicked off. Where I want to start is part of the reason why this is so important right now. And what we're seeing, these are national trends. So understand the things that you're seeing on your individual lots within your community, within your towns, within your metroplex. It's what we're seeing across the nation as well. The unfortunate thing is it's not a unique situation. It's not a northeast situation. It's not a southwest situation. It is literally what we're seeing across the nation right now. And that is quite simply that inventory for used vehicles is low. But the demand for them, not only is it high, but the demand for them is continuing to grow and grow and grow. Consumers are looking for new vehicles again. We see that great big dip at the beginning of the COVID spike in early spring. And since then, dramatic change, dramatic shift. Customers are coming back out again. They are looking for used vehicles. Now, the reason for that is a couple-fold. The first one, as you're fully aware, it's getting harder and harder to find new vehicles. You see that on your lot. You'll see that when you drive across town to the other lots in town as well. The OEMs, they had manufacturing on hold as well. And so that supply of new vehicles is getting harder and harder to come by as well, which is pushing some consumers that might have been looking new into considering used, hence more demand there. And the other thing is from that American consumer. It's been a hard year, to say the least. There's been challenges that we've never seen before and that we have either overcome or we're still working to overcome. And with that, many consumers today, as they are back in the market, looking for that replacement vehicle, are looking for used because they're viewing a vehicle that is more affordable on a total payment and monthly payment basis, yet again, continuing to drive that demand for those vehicles that are coming in shorter and shorter supply. So moving on, what we're going to take a look at here is what we've seen with market cost for those vehicles as well. So what we're talking about, and I'm going to keep this on our old high school economics classes that we never thought we were going to have to bring back up again, but it is back to that world of Adam Smith with that supply line, that demand line, and as supply is getting short, demand's going up, lo and behold, list prices are going up. List prices for used vehicles are growing across the nation. Now, what does this do? This gives you the opportunity to increase your profitability on each and every one of those units on your lot. Not only units on your lot, but more importantly, the ones that keep on coming in. Now, with that increased supply, with that increased demand that we're seeing, it is getting harder and harder to find these units at wholesale. The ones that you want are harder to find. So it's bringing them in on that trade-in marketplace, getting that next one coming in, walking in your door that you can turn around and not only make money on the first deal, but make money on the second one, bring in the next trade, and make money on the third one, and continue that process to continue to grow your inventory. So these are the two things that are driving the idea of looking to improve this payoff process, is because consumers are looking for these units. They're harder and harder to find, meaning that you have more profit to be made. And at this point in time, we're looking to maximize that opportunity profitability within that used marketplace. So what we're looking at here is the idea of working more efficiently and effectively. It's not that anything that we're doing is wrong. By all means, we're doing the process the best way that we've been able to do for an extended period of time. We're talking about a process that literally the last time there was an improvement was FedEx overnighting payoff checks. That's been a long time. And there's been a lot of changes since then. But what we're looking to do is take the opportunity to work effectively, efficiently, therefore driving profitability. When we're able to drive profitability, we're able to increase cash flow. And when you're doing that efficiently, you're increasing cash flow on a quicker basis than you've been able to do before. So what we're going to take a look at here is that the trade-in, the titling solution, the idea is that we're trying to facilitate the payoff, facilitate the title release to a faster process. Right now it's manual. From the fact that you've got to pick up the phone to call a lender to see when that payoff quote is going to come through, to the fact that you're having to cut a manual check, to the fact that FedEx has to come by and manually pick it up, to manually deliver it. And what we're trying to do is we're going to try and make that a much more hands-off process with more information on a quicker basis in a period of time that you need it, which is now, not a week from now or 2 weeks from now. So with that, we're actually going to make this a little bit interactive here, and Joe is going to be launching our first polling question. So Joe, take it away.
Thank you, David. All right, we would like to hear from you on the line. At what stage do you find your dealership running into the most obstacles during your trade-in process? Select one of the following. If you just simply click the radio button next to it and hit submit, you will be entered into our poll. All right, looks like we got the results in, and it looks like an overwhelming amount of you, 97%, said initiating and waiting for that title release.
That doesn't surprise me at all, Joe. That is what I hear from dealerships on a day in, day out basis. Now, we've built processes around these other steps, but unfortunately, we've been limited to the process that we can build around waiting for that title release. And unfortunately, it's not just waiting, it tends to be waiting and waiting and waiting. So with that, let's go and take a step forward, Joe, if you wouldn't mind. So like I said, the biggest issue that you guys brought up and that I hear routinely is waiting for that title release. But I want to start a step before then. It's a step that I mentioned just a second ago, and that's the front of house side of things, the sales side of things. Too often, we've got a sales manager or the sales reps or the finance director who is stuck calling to get a payoff quote, whether that customer's online, whether the customer's making a phone call to introduce themselves, whether they are still going the old school method and just walking onto the lot. But you've got the customers that are starting to get backed up, and you're stuck picking up the phone, calling a lender. And the unfortunate thing about that is I don't know the lender yet that makes that a quick phone call for you. It's a phone call that takes time, and you've got to punch in, write down the forms, stick in the deal jacket, hopefully it all stays there. And what you get with that, it's a variable, because some lenders are going to give you a 10-day payoff quote. I know some are currently giving you a 15-day payoff quote with that per diem attached. Some give you a today payoff quote with a per diem, even knowing the fact that that number is going to change drastically, but you've got to do the math all by yourself and keep track of all that information. Well, the nuances of each lender being slightly different, and the nuances of getting that payoff quote that isn't relating to the day that you're looking to make the payoff at all, that's where mistakes start to get made. And the problem is that you have good people doing good jobs, doing good work. But when you have a little bitty mistake, it adds 2 days here, and it adds a day here, and it adds a $25 here. And when that happens one time, it's fine. But when that happens on 50 vehicles a month that you're paying off, on 25 vehicles you're paying off, or 100 vehicles you're paying off, all those little times delay your efficiencies, start to affect your profitability. And therefore, at the very end, what we're talking about through the whole way through this is it starts to affect that cash flow as well. So what are we looking at? What we're given the opportunity to do is see more information when you need it. Because when you need information in today's world, quite frankly, it's today. You don't need it 2 weeks from now. You don't need that phone call from a lender in 2 weeks saying, hey, we've got a slight problem. There's actually a cosigner on the title. We need to kick this deal back to you. You need to call the customer and see what's going on. Or they took a second lien that apparently they didn't tell you about, but we can't get the lien release, so we're going to need to scrub this deal. Well, in 14 days, that's a big problem. But what if you could get that information at your fingertips? What if you have the opportunity to actually see the title? Now, I know I've got folks on there right now that are in electronic title states and some others that are in owner-held states thinking to themselves, well, we can't see that. What if it was a document showing what was on that electronic title, or literally that lien satisfaction, which is what you need in those owner-held states? So this product can give you that additional information, that knowledge prior to going through the sales process, prior to contracting, prior to letting that customer go and bust bugs in your unit for a couple of weeks. And that knowledge is power. It means your sales team is working on the next deal, not cleaning up the deal from 2 weeks ago. It means your finance director is on the bank talking about the next deal, the next rate, the next back end, not what we need to do to get the CIT list back in line because we've got to redo this contract now. The idea is getting you knowledge today. And not just today, but now. And that knowledge now increases your profitability, increases what you can do on that shortening supply of used vehicles, helping to increase our profitability as well. Because when we're dealing with the payoff process, yes, the front, and that's where I start. I'm going to start with the front of house. But the back office, they're the ones that are left cleaning up a lot of this mess. And I mean, that's just because there's not been a better way to fix this. There hasn't been effective solutions. There hasn't been efficient solutions. Dealerships across the country have been doing a phenomenal job of keeping up with all this data and all this information, especially when what we're working with is updates that are coming like it's, pardon the pun, but 1998. We were all doing very, very different things 22 years ago. And yet, in the payoff process, we're expected to conduct our business the same way. Well, your back office can be more efficient. They can be more effective because we can automate so much of this process for it. We can allow them the opportunity to update a payoff quote with a click of a button, not another additional 15-minute phone call. We can allow them to choose between different payoff quotes with a click of a mouse. Again, not a 15-minute phone call. We can allow them to make sure that the payoff is the right one for the right customer, not the wrong sheet of paper that got stuck in the deal jacket because they got mixed up on the wrong salesman's desk. And that salesman wasn't trying to do things wrong. They were trying to work with too many ups on that Saturday, making sure the customers are taken care of. And the Post-it note went on the wrong one and the 3x5 card went the other. Because we've all seen that scenario happen. And then your back office has to try to piece together those pieces. Well, instead, we can streamline that. We can make it easier for them. And with the idea of taking this digital solution to accentuate the front of house and what they're doing, to expedite the back of house, to increase that profitability on a deal-by-deal basis, we're going to get you guys involved here just yet again. So, Joe, can you open up our second polling question of the day, please?
For the next polling question, we want to hear from you. How often does your dealership call a lender to complete the payoff process from quote to title receipt? Is it at least once, 2 to 3 times, or 4 times or more? All right. It seems that a lot of you are finding at least 1 to 3 times. It seems like the general consensus is.
You know, that's a number that doesn't surprise me either. And I hear everything from a couple times. Some dealerships will tell me that they're calling a lender 4 or 5 times between the initial payoff quote, double checking that payoff quote, calling it again before the check finally gets sent in to make sure that something else hasn't changed. I even know some folks that are calling every other day throughout that title receipt process. Did you get my check? Have you got my check? Was the check in the right amount? Has the title been cleared? Was the title in the mail? because unfortunately those things don't always take place on the same day. Now, when you think about this, and the way I like to think about phone calls is time. Every time we pick up the phone, it takes time. If you pick up the phone to call a lender, to get a payoff quote, to check on the check, to make sure the title's being released, to make sure the title's even releasable. When I'm talking to dealerships, what I hear routinely is that if I call a lender, it's going to take me 15 minutes. So if you make 2 phone calls, that's 30 minutes of hold time staff's being paid to make a phone call. If it's 4, for those of you that said 4, that should take him an hour of hold. That's an hour of not effective work, not being efficient. And again, the problem is it's not anybody's fault because there hasn't been a better way. If I wanted to know if the check was received, the only thing I could do was pick up the phone and call, because lo and behold, the lender was not going to call you. They weren't going to let you know there was a problem. You had to pick up the phone and call, which means that you're doing the best job that you can, but it's taking time. And that time is going away from other efforts and other exercises and other roles and other things that you can accomplish, again, to drive that bottom line profitability, therefore increasing your cash flow on a day in, day out basis. Taking calls out of it for a second here. The other thing, you guys talked about this at the very beginning, the title receipt. National average is 12 to 18 days. I know a couple of y'all's jaws just hit the desk saying, man, if it was 18 days, I'd do a backflip right now, because I also will routinely hear 20. I hear 25. Or some folks say if I can get a title in 30 days, it's phenomenal, because it takes that long for the process. Now, if you figure that 12 to 18 days, and then we take a look at holding costs, because those delays cost money. Those delays cost time. Therefore, eating away at that profitability. So let's look at holding cost. The national average for holding cost is $32 a day. So if you're hitting that national average $32 mark, and it's taking you 18 days, for every vehicle, that's $576 in profitability that's being chipped away from your bottom line. That's real cash flow, and that's real profitability on a car by car by car basis. Now, how can we strip that away? Well, the first thing we do is we can reduce that transaction time. By digitizing this process, by creating a more effective and efficient workflow from beginning to end, we can drop that time to 4 to 6 days. 8 to 12 days. If you're average of 12 to 18, if you're not above average in this regard, as I know many of you are, if you're average, that's knocking off 8 to 12 days. Plus the hold time, plus the fixing time, plus the working back time. So what we're doing is, thanks to our partnership with our lenders, thanks to our unique spot in this industry, what we've been able to do is take a process that currently is taking many of you weeks to borderline a month, and break it down to where you can now count it in days. Of course, getting that title back is only the first step in the solution. We're not in the business of getting titles back. We're in the business of selling cars and making money. Now, sometimes you sell that car on a retail unit, sometimes you sell that car on a wholesale unit, but the bottom line is that we're looking to sell cars and make money. Giving that trade-in back, whether you are going to retail that unit or whether you're going to ship it off to wholesale, as quickly as possible, it allows you the peace of mind to knowing you are 100% safe to move forward. I know many of us will move forward without the title in hand on hope. It's generally fine. It usually doesn't cause a problem. But man, when it does, it becomes a major pain. And so this gives you that peace of mind to move fast, to move profitably, to get that cash flow into your hands and your pockets where it's supposed to be, not in the world of float. So speaking of that wholesale side of things, what we know through Manheim and what we see at the other auction sites out there as well is, if title's attached, it's nearly double the opportunity to sell on first pass. Less holding cost of waiting on the auction lane. Less holding cost of waiting for that sale, meaning that profitability is sitting out there on the lot somewhere as opposed to coming back to you. Now, with that idea, I know that many of these units are being kept for retail right now. Are those laws of supply and demand back to Adam Smith? They prove it. We see that. You already know that. But some of these units still get wholesaled for whatever reason. With that, Joe, this is our final interactive poll of the day, so thank you for participating so far. But Joe, can you hit this final polling question, please?
For our final poll of the day, we're asking, what is your mix of remarketing for vehicles you have taken in on trade? Is it almost all via retail? Is it 60% retail versus 40% wholesale? Is it a 50-50 split? 40% retail versus 60% wholesale? Almost all via wholesale at auction. All right, and it looks like we're seeing a 60% retail versus 40% wholesale as the majority.
Thank you for sharing. Again, based on those first couple slides that we looked at, based on our economics homework from high school, and we won't even go into dates for high school, that'd be embarrassing to, well, me. That's not surprising at all. I even know a lot of dealerships out there right now that are starting to keep these units that they normally wouldn't have because they're seeing the profitability in each individual one. But I do want to focus right now on that wholesale side of things. And I want to focus on the cash flow side of the wholesale. Because while I can tell you a lot about Manheim, but I know what's happening in those other auctions as well, and it's not all that different. You take the unit, it sells, whether it sells for $100 or $10,000. Doesn't make a difference. You don't get that cash till you produce the title. So whether it takes 12 to 18 days, to 21 to 25 to 30, until you're able to produce that title or that lien sat or that electronic ELT for the vehicle, until you can produce the title and however it's done in your state. If you've wholesaled that unit, you've got profitability, but you don't have cash flow. And I'm sorry, without the cash flow, the profitability is only so good. That's what we write books about, but it's not what we live on. So able to get that title, able to produce it. Yes, it's going to sell faster with title attached. We know that it's 2x times more likely to sell in the first pass. But you, more importantly, you get your cash faster. You get your cash into your pocket coming back to you when you're able to produce that title in just 4 to 6 days, as opposed to having to wait for it to come in while your staff is making the phone call. Is the check right? Did you get it? Okay, when's it going to be released? Oh, you're wait. Okay, we'll wait. Okay, and you wait. Instead, you get to see a full line of sight. You get your staff working on the next deal, moving forward on the next one, not trying to figure out how to collect that money. We've covered all these points today and more, some more in depth than others. But I want to go back and key on a couple key points here. We're not looking to overturn what you're doing at your dealership. We're looking to keep your same process, keep the same thing we're doing. We're looking to just to add a new tool that's going to allow you to be more effective with your customers, more efficient in how you workflow that deal from the front of the house to the back of the house, how efficient you're able to turn that unit that's coming in, not into a unit, but into a profitable cash flow deal. Now, I know every time that it comes up and we're talking about a new digital this or new digital that, we all get a little bit scared because that's always, it's a change and it's new. And as people, we tend not to be super sold on change. We talk about change management and change heroes and all this other stuff, but we all tend to be slightly reluctant. Well, the bottom line is to digitize for the sake of going digital, for e-commerce for the sake of e-commerce doesn't make sense. Yes, I'll say that. It doesn't make sense. It makes sense when it helps you be more efficient, when it helps you be more profitable, when in bottom line helps your cash flow. When you can do those things, going digital helps. And that's why we all have new websites. And that's why we're spending money advertising those vehicles online. And that's why we're looking at being able to do digital contracting, because consumers are asking for it and they're willing to pay for our vehicles when they can get that done as opposed to having to walk in someplace else sometimes. And that solution, that streamlined process works here too. For the first time ever, we're able to look at using this digital world and bring it to the payoff process, because that old manual system is taking time. And when it's taking time, it's causing little bitty mistakes. Each one of those little bitty mistakes takes a little bit more time. And every time it takes a little bit more time, it costs a little bit more money, which takes away from your profitability and affects your cash flow bottom line, which is where we're trying to get to. Now with that, I'm going to quickly just walk through how this process works and see some of the information that can be at your fingertips and how effective it can be at getting this information to your fingertips when you need it. So right at the very top, we've got the obtain a payoff quote button. Joe, if you can just push that real quick for me. And it pops up to get a payoff quote. Now we're going to drop down. We're going to select our lender. This particular episode, we're going to choose Rockingham Bank. It's my favorite made-up bank in America. And this is a retail deal. This product is available for lease only for a handful of clients right now. But that is growing to where we're going to be offering this to do your lease payoffs as well when you're looking to buy out that lease. Not when you're looking to ground and turn back in, but when you're looking to buy that lease out, we're looking to increase that functionality here. But for right now, we're just going to look at a retail deal. So we've got a retail deal, and you'll see it gives us a couple options here. So we're going to select the account number and the customer's last name, whatever information your team is accustomed to inputting today. The VIN, the social, the date of birth, customer's last name, physical address, whatever that information is, that'd be the same information here. So Joe, if we'll use the account number 1249 and the customer's last name is Flores, Flores. Click our button saying that we have the right, the legal right to pull this payoff quote, that we're not just making it up. Legally approved, by the way, and go ahead and click that payoff button, Joe. First thing we'll see is our, like I call our Aaron Rodgers discount and double check. Is this the right customer? Is this the right vehicle? It is. So Joe, go ahead and move forward, please, for me. First thing I want you to see, green check mark, top of the screen. Green check mark, title releasable. 99.7% of the time, and that's a made-up stat, I know that, but a majority of the time, these titles are releasable, which means we fly through the process. Because it doesn't make sense to take the amount of time that it takes to call the amount of lenders to find out, hey, can you actually send me this title when we're done? But you know what happens when that title is not releasable? Man, it's a pain. It takes a lot of time, and every time it takes time, it's costing you money. Your teams, the people in there, are spending their time fixing information that they didn't have access to, that they couldn't get access to. But today you can get it with, as you saw, 2 inputs and a mouse click. Is that title releasable? First thing you see. Next thing you're going to get access to, and I was talking about this earlier, but let's go ahead and click on that title. Let's get that pulled up so we can see the actual title that will be mailed back to you. When the consumer says, don't worry about it, I know it says that there's a co on my credit, it's been taken care of in the divorce, I can give you the divorce papers, everything's good. Yeah, buyers are liars, I know that. But you can actually see the title. As you can see with Mr. Flores here, there is no spouse. His is the only name on there. You know you're clear to move forward in this process. You know you're not going to have to come and revisit this deal based on a titling issue because you can see the title. Now, how can you see the title? Well, it's because DealerTrack and Cocktail Modes, we're actually the largest holder of titles, and the lenders have outsourced this to us. We hold somewhere between 55 to 60% of all open titles in the United States on a day in, day out basis. Anytime the title that reads Sacramento, California, that's the title that we're holding. So we're able to produce those images for you. Again, you'll see a similar image for an electronic title, and if it's an owner-held state, you'll see the lien stat form there. We're able to produce it because we're holding on to it, because we've scanned it, because we've secured it. So Joe, let's go back to the payoff amount. Over here on the right-hand side is all the information being at your fingertips, again, within seconds. You get your payoff amount, you get how many payments they've made, you get your monthly payment. That daily dollar amount, that's the per diem. So we'll still let you calculate by hand if you want to. We won't take the calculators away from anybody just yet. They can still choose to use their chicken scratch. It's all there. Or just down below, Joe, if you'll click that date button, you can pick your payoff date. Toss it out a couple of weeks. It's going to calculate for those changes in payment. And the system knows that when you push that button, it's going to be received at the lender in 3 business days. So it's going to calculate 3 business days per diem for you. So if you want to pay it off on Monday, it knows it's going to get there on a Thursday. It's going to calculate those per diem days for you. No more guessing when it's going to be processed by the lender anymore. No more taking the time to try to do those calculations for you, because we've got the system in place to do it for you when you need it now. Now on this one, we're going to assume that we're going ahead and we're ready to make this payoff. Complete control as to who has the payoff button, who doesn't. That's a very scary thought. But you control who has access to the payoff button, typically speaking, 1, maybe 2 people at a dealership. Now, Joe, click that payoff button. And again, the double check. You sure? Is this the right one? Is this the right amount? Yes. And what happens is a very slight change. We just went from our pre-payoff to our payoff, or titles in transit, if you will. These are the deals coming back to you. These are the deals that you're spending time on the phone asking, where is it? And getting very, very little response, because there isn't a good answer today. It's on the way to you. It should be there soon-ish. Has it been 18 days yet? Great, we're still on time. I mean, 18 days was awesome 10 years ago. That doesn't really cut it in this 2020 environment in which we live. Forget COVID, forget everything else like that. We don't live in a 18-day environment anymore. That's not this world. Not only do you get the information, but if it is a paper title, scroll down to the bottom of the screen. You can see the FedEx tracking number right there. You can see if it's on the truck. Is it in Memphis? Did it get delivered and signed for by parts this time? And they forgot to bring it to the back office where we need it to ship this vehicle off to wholesale. It's one of those 40%ers. We're getting ready to get it out there. I want that title. Parts has it, because I can see who signed for it at my fingertips. Not, you should have it by now. Why don't you go look in the envelope somewhere? That's honestly the best answer the lender can give you today. No, you get this. You're spending less time. You're more efficient in how you're able to get the answers. You're more effective with the answers that you have. This makes you more profitable on a deal by deal by deal basis. Therefore, your cash flow will be better. Now, I took my time to run through this demo. Literally, we could have hit that and done the mouse clicks and done the parts there in maybe 2 minutes. If you were calling to get a payoff quote, you'd probably still be on hold. And I took my time. That's the effectiveness we're looking to bring to dealerships. That's the efficiencies we're looking to add to your process, increasing the profitability, spending less time tracking down information that should be at your fingertips, and give you the chance to focus on that profitability, to focus on that bottom line, to focus on your cash flow. With that, Joe, let's go ahead and jump right back in. And I believe, if memory serves, that we should be taking the time to take a look at any Q&A that might be out there right now. Have we had any questions pop up for us here, Joe?
Hey, David, thank you. Yes, we had a few pop up. The first question up is regarding the lenders. How many lenders do we have on Accelerated Title?
Awesome, thank you. Right now, we have 70 lenders live and active on the platform. And your first thought, 70, well, that's not near all of them. You're right, it's not near all of them. When I started this program in 2015, we had 4. We've grown to 70 in 5 years. And that speed's not growing, not slowing down. Now, what you'll see is some of them are very big. Chase, Capital One, Nissan, Fifth Third, TD. Some of them are very small. Some of them are directional credit unions that don't get much out of their own market. What I will tell you, though, and the important thing with the lenders on this program and this platform is it's not who you write your paper with. You control that. You control those relationships. You control that profitability. You do not always have control over who walks in the door. And this allows you to get the same level of service. In fact, probably better than you're getting from your best banks today. But to get the same level of service from everybody. whether you're a top tier Capital One, or whether somebody's walking in the door from Space Coast Credit Union that you've never even heard of Space Coast Credit Union because they don't do service in where you are on the West Coast. If that customer walks in, you get the same streamlined process and level of service as if you're doing 100 deals a month with them. So that 70 is continuing to grow and grow and grow, but we are at 70 as of right now. I would love, the form is actually attached if you want to download to see the full list of who's on platform right now. That does get updated on pretty much a monthly basis. I think we added 2 or 3 2 in October and already 1 for November, getting up to 70. And any of my sales reps nationally would be happy to share it with you if you would like one sent to you as well. What else do we have, Joe?
Thank you, David. Next question. Will it show me if a title has more than one lien?
Yes. As long as that lien has been registered, and if it has been registered, because I've gotten that question before. Well, what happens if there's a second lien that hasn't been registered with anybody? Well, if they haven't registered, then nobody really knows about it. That's that weird. Doesn't happen very. That's the blue moon of a blue moon. But if there is a second lien, it will show. The first thing it'll show you that the title's not releasable. And then if you're looking, most second liens are written on the title as well, because we pulled that out and it's been put on there so that you can see that information, so that you'll know it. Again, the important thing here is you get that information today, but you get that information like on day 14 after you've delivered. I used to work at a lender. I made that phone call. That doesn't help you. That takes away from profitability. That slows down your cash flow. That causes your team to be ineffective and inefficient because they're spending time fixing a 2-week-old problem, not on the next deal that's walking in the door. So, yeah, if the second lien is on there, that title's unreleasable. In that scenario, yeah, we are going to have to take a step back, call back up, talk to the lender, see what's going on. But you're going to have the opportunity to know that information up front and get that information in seconds, not in 2 weeks, which is where it's coming to you today.
Thank you, David. Next question. If a title is not releasable, are you still able to pay off the vehicle through DealerTrack?
No, you're not, because the title's not releasable. So we're not going to let you cut a $10,000 check to not take ownership of that vehicle. That might have sounded a little bit mean, and I don't mean it to. But the idea here isn't that this isn't a source for you to go and make a car payment for somebody and not get the title released. This is the payment to get the title released, and to effectively and efficiently get that payoff processed and the title released. So if there is a hold on the title for any of the myriad of reasons, you cannot make the payoff on those deals. You have to, again, call the lender, see what the situation is, work the process through the SP. But those are not common issues, but they are extremely time consuming when you cut that check today and the title can't be released, and now you're stuck with a unit that you can't get the title on, and it keeps that from happening.
Thank you, David. Next question. Is this available for RVs and motorsports?
Yes. Yes. The biggest catch is the titles being held. There are lenders out there that I know do a lot of business in both the RV and the motorsports arenas. And there's some lenders out there that don't at all. So now the other flip part of that is I also know some RV places that they wind up taking the trade on the truck as well. You've got the fifth wheel. We'll take in that Dodge because you're buying the full motorhome this time. So in those areas, you're doing a little bit of a different area of the business. But yes, as long as those titles are held by one of those 70 lenders, you can make the payoff through this process, whether it's a motorcycle, whether it's an RV, whether it's an F-150.
Thank you, David. Next question is regarding payoffs. So using accelerated title to pay off a trade, are you saying that we send DealerTrack the payoff?
You're not sending the payoff. You're clicking the button. We're doing the whole thing via ACH. The trick is that we've built the link to each lender to be able to get that accurate, correct payoff in a matter of seconds for you. So there is a 3-day hold period, but that's an FDIC hold. We often think of how we pay our personal cable bills or whatever else, where I click the button and the company registers it the next day. But in actuality, that company doesn't get the funds for 72 hours. The cable company, the phone company, your cell phone, whatever, they'll go and register that money as being in receipt, because if it is short, if it does bounce, if something else goes wrong, they're just going to bill you over the next pay period. In this instance, when it comes to releasing that title, those lenders don't want to release that title until they're actually in receipt of funds. It's the same thing they're doing with checks today. It's why when you send in a paper check, you have to wait 7 days for that check to clear and cash, because they're not going off the checks, they're going off cash receipt. They're worried about their cash flow too. And then the title gets released. In this instance, we've built a link to connect and apply those funds to the correct account. Yes, you could wire funds to Capital One today, but it's not going to be applied to the right account. And they get a $5,000 ACH. There's like, okay, I don't know if this is John Smith or Jill Smith or whomever. So the connection is through us and through the credit portal, the Do It Correct credit portal, to click the button, have those funds transferred to the lender, and pay off the right account for the right amount at the right time, and able to expedite that title back to you. So I hope that answers your question thoroughly with that. If you want to dig in more on those slides, again, contact information at the bottom. Please reach out, and we'll be happy to walk through that on more a one-off if you would like some more information on that.
Thank you, David. There's a couple of questions coming in about the cost of the product. I just want to direct those people asking that question. We can have a titling specialist reach out to you directly to talk about that, or David's contact information is at the bottom of the slide, as he just mentioned, and he'd be more than happy to discuss it. Another question that came in, what if there is a child support lien? Would I be able to see that lien?
Yes and no. You will not be able to see the exact reason of the lien, but again, if the states are very good on reporting those in a timely fashion to the right accounts, meaning that what you'll see is that title is not releasable. So if they are back child support and the states that are holding back for that, you will see that there is a issue with it. You'll see that there's I say red flag, but it's actually a red X. You'll see a red X at the very beginning of the process, at which point time you know that, hey, I need to call or see what's going on here. Because my customer's telling me everything's fine, there's nothing to worry about. My system's telling me that he might not be being completely honest at this point in time. I need to dig a little bit. So you'll have that information to be able to see, to check it out and find out exactly what the reason is. If there is a title that's unreleasable, we don't supply the reasons on the platform. You do have to contact the lender to get those exact reasons. You will just be able to see immediately that, don't move forward. We've got the hard stop on this one. Let's see what's going on. And it could be an issue as in a second lien. It could also be something as small as that customer had the loan for 3 years, moved after 6 months, but that Saturday morning before coming to your dealership, picked up the phone to call to change addresses after 2.5 years of living at the different address, because they did the billing, but they didn't actually take the time to go and change the title address. And they did that morning, and we've pulled it to change the address. So it could be something small like that that'll be fixed tomorrow, or it could be something like you are way back on child support. We've got some issues before we can move forward. But you get that information now, not 14 days from now.
Thank you, David. Next question. I have a current process right now, and it's not really costing me anything. Why should we adopt this?
I love this question. And I love this question because I'm a father and I'm a husband, and so I'm the one that walks around my house turning out the lights. And this is going to be a long answer to the question. Just bear with me, please. I'm the one that walks around the house and turns off the lights and turns off the TV. My wife does as well, but my boys don't. So we turn off lights, we turn off the TV, because all those things cost us money. You leave the light on all night, it costs us money. You forget to turn the TV off after you turn off the cable box, it costs us money. Except for that kitchen light. We keep that kitchen light on all night, every day, when we go out to eat. Well, we used to go out to eat, or go to school, or in the days when we used to go to work and all that others. We keep that kitchen light on. And for some reason, mentally, that light doesn't cost me money because that's just the light we keep on. Well, that's the payoff process to me. Because to say it doesn't cost you money, it's allocated in a different way. And it's such a sunk cost of having to do business that we don't allocate for it. Because you're spending money to send that check. Each and every check. Those checks, banks don't really do free checks anymore. They like to spend money on those things. Whether you're doing a business account or a personal account, you've got to pay money for each one of those. I already brought up the FedEx cost. And then we start to talk about the time. Forget the holding costs, forget all that. Let's talk about the time. Let's talk about those phone calls in. And we can say, yeah, but part of their job is making those phone calls. Yes, but what if their job could be something else? What if their job could be moving ahead in a different area? What if we can get up to speed here in 6 hours instead of taking the full 8 and add 2 hours to accomplish something else that can add to our profitability, something else that can continue to move us forward. So the payoff process today does cost you money. You are spending money on the steps you're taking right now. It's just not being directly allocated there. And let's not even get into the cost of waiting 18 days or 12 days or the 25 to 30 that I hear out there as well, because that's that cost that we don't allocate at all.
Thank you, David. And it seems like we have the final question of the day. Can you go over how exactly DealerTrack is getting us the titles faster? It was covered, but they just want to reiterate it.
Yes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the current process. I'm going to start off with the check writing process. And I'm not going to get into the payoff quote and all that. Let's just talk about the title receipt. Because what happens today is you decide it's time to make the payoff. So you cut a check and you drop it in your FedEx envelope. And the lender gets it tomorrow. And the lender takes a day or two to get that check to the right department, at which point in time they begin to process it. Now, having worked at a lender, I bought paper for a number of years. And what I learned when the CFPB used to come and set up shop for 6 weeks at a time and dig through all of our files, making sure we're doing everything on the up and up, is that all paper checks must be treated the same. And most lenders, most banks, forget auto lenders, banks are based around a lack of trust. That's why they charge the interest. They charge the interest to make money, and they charge a different interest rate based on their lack of trust in you. And based on the lack of trust, it means that if I have to treat all checks the same, I'm going to hold all checks till they get processed, which is traditionally 7 to 10 days, 7 business days, a week. So once they get receipt of your check, they hold it to make sure that that check, whether it's for $100 or $10,000, actually is able to go through. And once they're able to get that cash, then they notify the title will be released. Well, that's our turn to go into motion, where we'll get the notification from the lender, we'll grab it, and eventually paper title or lien satisfaction will drop in a USPS envelope when we mail it to you. Yes, you can pay to get those FedEx back with most lenders out of your pocket, but they get mailed back to you, USPS. So everywhere in the process, there's the manual steps and the manual delays. What happens through Accelerated Title is that on that day that you cut that check, you push the button instead. And instead of waiting for FedEx to come get it, to take it to Memphis, to deliver it to wherever the next day, that fund becomes its transfer. Now, the other thing that's different is the CFPB does recognize an ACH as a different payoff tool than a paper check. So lender is allowed legally to treat it differently, which means that on day 3, once we verify that funds are there and everything's clear, according to the FDIC, this isn't an us thing, it's not a lender thing, it's not even a you thing, it's an FDIC thing. They've got the 72 hold. And as soon as those funds are verified and cleared at 72 hours, we grab that title, that lien satisfaction, and we drop in a FedEx to mail to you. Now, at this point in time, all my friends in the electronic states just went, what about me? Same thing happens on day 3. We grab that electronic file and we notify the state DMV to start now. The paper stuff is going out next day, meaning it's getting there within 4 to 6. The electronic stuff is being notified at the state DMV on day 3. Some of those states are still running really slow right now because they're still working on partial head counts. Fully aware of that one, but they're being notified on day 3, not on day 15, day 18. So by able to automate this process, by able to use a different payment process that is verifiable, unlike a paper check, we're able to expedite this process to get that title receipt back to you in a measurement that can be done in days, not realistically in weeks. I hope that fully answered your question. Again, if not, and if you want to dig in more in depth, please, either the phone number will route to the sales rep for your area. The email address, again, does come straight to me. But if you want more in depth on that one, I'll gladly spend more time going over that or answering any additional questions on that one. Please just let us know.
Thank you, David. And with that, that concludes our Q&A portion for today. I want to take this time to thank each of you for taking your time and joining this call and seeing how we can help you end the year strong by optimizing your trade-ins.